I was at this high-end co-working space last Tuesday, right? And I was observing this guy. Let's just call him Mark.
Okay.
And he seemed to be the peak of modern productivity. He was at a standing desk, surrounded by like 3 massive monitors, bathed in that sterile, aggressive fluorescent glow.
I can picture it perfectly.
And every single time a Slack notification pinged, he'd react with this lightning-fast precision. His eyes darting between spreadsheets with this, I don't know, this kind of manic intensity.
The crushing it posture.
Exactly. To any passerby, he looked like a man in total control, crushing his 9 to 5. He even told me during a quick coffee break that he felt wired for this. Like the high-pressure environment was where he truly thrived.
He thinks he's thriving.
Right. But as I watched him longer, I noticed something jarring. Despite his claims of being in the zone, his body was betraying him in these small, rhythmic ways.
Oh, interesting.
His left foot was tapping at a frantic, breakneck pace. His grip on his mouse was so tight his knuckles were turning white. And then, this is what got me. A colleague walked up behind him to ask a simple question.
Okay.
Mark didn't just turn around, he jumped. His shoulders hit his ears. His breath hitched as if he'd just dodged a physical blow.
Wow.
And that's when it hit me. Mark thinks he's answering emails, but his internal biology thinks he's being hunted.
That's a powerful way to put it.
We spent the last century perfecting this industrial schedule, treating the human body like a machine that can provide a steady 8-hour stream of cognitive output. We see the 9 to 5 as this, neutral professional standard.
Of course. It's just work.
But to our evolutionarily ancient nervous systems, that office isn't a workplace. It's a site of a sustained, low-grade ambush.
We are forcing a Stone Age brain to navigate a world of artificial noonday sun, sedentary confinement, and abstract lions that never actually pounce but never truly leave.
They're always circling. And what we call burnout isn't a lack of willpower. It's a systematic overload attack on our very design. We've built a world we were never meant to inhabit, and our bodies are finally starting to scream.
That is a visceral way to open, but I think you've hit on something that we usually ignore. We tend to look at someone like Mark and think, oh, he just needs better time management, or, maybe he needs to meditate more.
Right, it's a personal problem. It's his fault.
We treat the symptoms as personal failures, but what you were describing isn't a failure of discipline, it's a biological conflict.
Right, and that's what I want to dig into today. Because when I wrote that down, Mark thinks he's answering emails, but his biology thinks he's being hunted. It sounded good, but I started wondering, is that scientifically true? Or am I just being dramatic?
No, it's not dramatic at all.
I mean, we hear terms like burnout and stress. So often they just lose all meaning. Are we actually physically fighting a war with our office environment? Or are we just, soft compared to our ancestors?
It is scientifically true, and no, we aren't soft. We are mismatched. The core thesis we are exploring today is called evolutionary mismatch.
Evolutionary mismatch.
It's a concept that comes up in evolutionary medicine and psychology. The basic idea is that your genes evolve very, very slowly over tens of thousands of years. But your environment, that can change in a single generation.
Dramatically.
Exactly. So you have a body built for the Pleistocene-era, hunting, gathering, small tribes, solar time, trying to function in a digital, fluorescent, sedentary skyscraper.
So we're essentially running Windows 95 on a supercomputer. Or wait, maybe it's the other way around.
I think it's the other way. We're running high-end software on hardware that's 1 million years old.
The hardware is us.
Yes. The hardware, our brain, our hormones, our metabolism, is ancient. It hasn't had a firmware update in about 50,000 years. But the software, the social demands, the 9 to 5, the Slack pings is brand new. And the friction between those two things is where the damage happens.
The glitch in the system.
And that's what we have here. We have a stack of research papers on evolutionary, industrial, and organizational psychology, some really dense studies on the smoke detector principle of anxiety, and fascinating data on circadian rhythms.
And we're going to break this down into 3 specific areas, right? Because mismatch feels a bit broad. It could mean anything.
Correct. We are going to look at 3 pillars of this conflict. First, the hijacked stress response. Why your heart pounds when you get an urgent email. That's the first one.
Okay.
Second, the circadian mismatch, why artificial light is basically lying to your metabolism.
Right. The ghost in the machine.
And third, the energy mismatch, why sitting in a chair for 8 hours is paradoxically exhausting for a brain that was built to forage.
Okay, let's start with the stress response. That feels like the most immediate one. I want to tell you about a story I found in the research notes that really stuck with me.
Let's hear it.
It's about a guy named Marcus. He's a senior analyst at a pretty high-tier firm in Manhattan. To the outside world, Marcus has made it.
The whole package.
The whole package. But he described this specific scenario that happens to him almost every single night. It's 3:00 a.m. He's asleep in a luxury apartment. The temperature is perfect. The sheets are high thread count. The door is locked. He is arguably safer than 99% of humans who have ever lived.
Physically safe, yes, absolutely.
But then his phone chirps on the nightstand. Just a single notification sound. A high-priority email.
Uh-oh.
Marcus says that in that split second, before he even wakes up fully, his heart is hammering against his ribs so hard he can hear the blood rushing in his ears. His muscles tense up. He's gasping for air.
That reaction is key. It's completely involuntary.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
He says he feels wired but tired. He's exhausted, but his body is just vibrating with this frantic energy. I have to ask, is that normal? Why does a digital sound file trigger a reaction that feels like he's about to be eaten?
To answer that, we have to look at the smoke detector principle. This was introduced by Randolph Ness, who's one of the founders of evolutionary medicine. It explains exactly why Marcus feels that way.
The smoke detector principle.
Yeah. Think about how you design a smoke detector for your house. What are your priorities?
Okay. Well, I want it to be loud, and I want it to catch fires. Pretty simple.
But you have a trade-off. You can tune the sensitivity. If you make it not sensitive enough, it won't go off when there's a real fire and you burn to death.
Okay.
That is a missed alarm. The cost is catastrophic total loss of genetic fitness, in evolutionary terms. You don't pass on your genes.
Okay, that's bad. So I crank the sensitivity way, way up.
Right. But if you crank it up, it goes off every time you burn toast. Every time you take a hot shower and steam fills the room. That's a false alarm. Now, what is the cost of a false alarm?
It's annoying. I have to wave a towel around. Maybe my ears ring for a minute. That's it.
Exactly. It costs you a few calories of energy and some minor irritation. So natural selection over millions of years had to make a choice. Do we evolve a brain that is calm and waits for definitive proof of danger? Or do we evolve a brain that panics at the slightest hint of a threat?
The calm ones probably got eaten.
Precisely. The humans who heard a rustling in the bush and said, it's probably just the wind, didn't survive to pass on their genes. We are the descendants of the paranoid. We are the children of the ones who heard a rustle and thought, lion, and ran up a tree.
And the 10 times it was just the wind, no big deal. But the one time it was a lion.
That one time is all that matters for survival. So Marcus has inherited a nervous system that is calibrated to treat every ambiguous signal as a potential fatality.
So when his phone pings at 3:00 a.m., his amygdala, that ancient, lizard brain, isn't interpreting it as work. It's interpreting it as the perimeter has been breached, predator inbound.
Yes. And this is where we need to get a little technical to understand the sheer violence of that reaction. We're talking about the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis.
Okay, break that down for me.
When that ping happens, the amygdala fires first. It's the brain's alarm bell. It sends an immediate signal to a part of the brainstem called the locus coeruleus.
Whoa, hang on. The locus coeruleus. That sounds like a spell from Harry Potter. Locus coeruleus, and suddenly you're anxious. What exactly is that?
It's basically the brain's panic button. It's a tiny cluster of neurons that produces noradrenaline, which you might also know as norepinephrine.
Okay, the adrenaline chemical.
Right. When the amygdala hits that button, the locus coeruleus floods your entire brain and body with noradrenaline. And this happens faster than conscious thought. Before Marcus's prefrontal cortex, the logical, rational part of his brain, can wake up, look at the phone and say, oh, it's just Dave asking about the Q3 projections, the chemical flood has already happened.
So he's physically primed to fight a lion before he even knows what the threat is. His body is ahead of his mind.
Miles ahead.
Yeah.
His liver dumps glucose into the bloodstream for quick energy. His pupils dilate. His blood pressure spikes to pump fuel to the muscles. His digestion shuts down because, you don't need to digest lunch if you're about to be lunch.
That's a great way to put it.
In the ancestral environment, this was a lifesaver. You run, you fight, and then, and this is the crucial part, it ends.
It ends.
Yes. The stress response has a terminus, a clear endpoint. You escape the lion, or you kill the lion, or you die, in which case the stress is definitely over.
Right.
But assuming you survive, you burn off that glucose, you pant, you shake, and then your body goes into a recovery mode. The parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, kicks in. The threat is gone.
But Marcus isn't running from a lion. He's just lying in bed, stewing in these chemicals.
That is the mismatch. The predator is the inbox. And the inbox never leaves the cave. It never goes away. It's always there waiting. So Marcus is stuck in a state of chronic low-grade mobilization. He never gets the all-clear signal.
This helps me understand that phrase he used, wired but tired. It's not just a rhyme, it's a literal physiological state. He's tired because he hasn't slept, but he's wired because his blood is full of noradrenaline and cortisol.
And this is where it stops being just unpleasant and starts being genuinely dangerous to his health. We have data here from the Canelevate source referencing chronic cortisol elevation. When that HPA axis gets stuck in the on-end position, it becomes corrosive.
Corrosive how?
Yeah.
Like it actually damages the body.
Absolutely. High levels of cortisol over time lead to the accumulation of visceral fat. That's the dangerous fat around your organs. It's your body storing energy for a war that never happens.
So it's preparing for a famine or a fight that is purely abstract.
Exactly. It also suppresses the immune system. Why waste energy fighting a common cold virus when there's a lion outside the cave? So you get sick more often. It damages the cardiovascular system because your blood pressure never drops back down to baseline. It's like running an engine in the red all day, every day.
It's just incredibly ironic. The very system designed to save our lives is the thing that is slowly killing us because we've put it in an environment it just doesn't understand.
That is the definition of the human zoo. We've built a cage that is safe from predators, but is, in many ways, toxic to our biology. And the stress response is just one pillar. If we move to the second pillar, the mismatch becomes even more fundamental. We need to talk about time and light.
Right, the circadian rhythm. This is something I struggle with. I feel like I'm always fighting my own internal clock. And it reminds me of another story from research about a woman named Elena. She works in Northern Europe, in one of those high-tech, secure manufacturing facilities.
Ones that are completely climate-controlled and sealed off from the outside world.
Yeah, exactly. It's a clean room environment, no windows, just endless banks of machinery and sterile LED lights. In the winter, she goes to work in the dark. She spends 8 to 10 hours under these bright white lights, and then she commutes home in the dark.
So she essentially never sees the sun on weekdays.
Never. A true subterranean existence, even if it's technically above ground. And she described it in this really haunting way. She said she felt like a ghost in the machine, not just tired, but detached. She said a heavy gray fog settled over her brain. She couldn't tell when she was hungry anymore.
Her internal signals were scrambled.
Completely. She'd look at a clock and realize she hadn't eaten in 12 hours. Or she'd eat constantly without ever feeling full. Her body just lost the plot.
That lost the plot feeling is what happens when you decouple the melanopsin system from the natural solar cycle.
Melanopsin. Another big word. Let's break that down for us.
Okay, so for a long time we thought our eyes were just for seeing, rods and cones, building an image of the world. But relatively recently, scientists discovered a third type of receptor in the eye.
A third type.
Yes. They're called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, which contain a pigment called melanopsin. These cells don't see images. They see time.
They see time. How does that work?
They measure the intensity and, crucially, the color temperature of the light hitting the retina to tell the brain what time of day it is. And this brings us to a really counterintuitive study by Sampson and McKinnon. The title alone is provocative. Are humans facing a sleep epidemic or enlightenment?
I feel like I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Every headline says we are in a sleep epidemic. We all sleep less than our ancestors, right? That's the story we're always told.
That's the common assumption. But Sampson and McKinnon went and actually studied extant hunter-gatherer tribes, specifically the Hadza people in Tanzania, others. They put sensors on them, and they measured their sleep.
And what did they find?
Guess what? Hunter-gatherers sleep less than we do.
Wait, really? That can't be right. I thought they were sleeping like 9 or 10 hours a night without Netflix to distract them.
Nope. They average about 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and their sleep is often fragmented. They wake up to stoke the fire, or because of a noise, or just to chat for a bit in the middle of the night.
So if they sleep less and we sleep more, why do we feel so terrible? If I'm getting more sleep than a hunter-gatherer, why am I chugging 3 coffees a day just to function?
That's the million-dollar question. The study introduces a metric called the CFI, the Circadian Function Index. It doesn't measure how long you sleep. It measures the amplitude and stability of your biological rhythm.
Amplitude. Like a wave. You mean like how high the highs are and how low the lows are?
Yeah, exactly. Think of a healthy circadian rhythm, like a high ocean wave. During the day, your alertness signal, cortisol, body temperature should be very high. That's the peak of the wave. At night, your melatonin and sleep signal should be very deep. the trough of the wave.
That's a high amplitude rhythm.
And hunter-gatherers have massive amplitude. They are hyper-alert during the day and deeply synchronized with the night. Their biological signals are crystal clear.
And us, the modern office worker.
We have a flat line, our wave is squashed, we are groggy during the day, which is a low peak, and then we're wired and anxious at night, which is a shallow trough. So even if we sleep for 8 hours, the biological quality of that synchronization is incredibly weak.
So we've traded quality for quantity.
We have gained secure sleep safety from bugs and leopards and the elements, but we have lost circadian entrainment. We lost our connection to the sun.
And the culprit is the light, right? The artificial light that Elena is sitting under all day.
It is, specifically the confusion of color. There was an NIH study on mice that looked at how the color of light affects their internal clock. Now, in the natural world, what color is the light when the day is ending?
Sunset. So, oranges, reds, but wait, no. Before it gets really dark, there's twilight. And that's kind of blue, isn't it?
Twilight is blue shifted. As the sun drops below the horizon, the scattered light that reaches us is predominantly blue. So for millions of years, blue light in the evening meant the day is ending. Prepare for sleep.
But wait a second. Everyone tells me to get blue light filters on my phone and my glasses because blue light wakes you up. Now you're saying blue light means it's time to sleep. I'm confused.
This is the blue light paradox. It's all about intensity and context. Natural twilight blue is very dim. It's a gentle signal of a transition. But the blue light coming from Elena's LED overheads and your computer screen,
it's not gentle at all.
It is a specific narrow spike of high-intensity blue light that perfectly mimics the solar spectrum at high noon.
Ah, I see. So the screen isn't mimicking twilight. It's mimicking the sun being directly overhead at its most powerful.
Correct. It's a super stimulus, a biological hack. So Lena sits in that windowless room, and her eyes are blasted with noon, noon, noon for 10 hours straight. Then she goes home, turns on the TV, checks her phone, more noon. Her suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock in her brain, never gets the signal that the day has passed.
It's basically perpetual noon. Her brain thinks it's lunchtime for 16 hours a day.
Yes. And this causes what they call a chronohygiene failure. The master clock in the brain desynchronizes from all the peripheral clocks in the body.
There are other clocks.
Oh, yeah. You have clocks in your liver, your pancreas, your gut, your muscles. When the master clock in the brain says, it's noon, but your behavior says, it's 9 p.m., I'm eating dinner, you get metabolic chaos.
This explains the gray fog Elena mentioned. It explains why she couldn't regulate her hunger. Her liver literally didn't know if it was supposed to be processing sugar for immediate energy or storing it and resting for the night.
Exactly. And that's where we see insulin resistance, higher risks of type 2 diabetes, and mood disorders. We are solar-powered organisms living in a world of artificial stars. We think we can override the sun with a light switch, but the biology always, always keeps the score.
It's terrifying to think that just the color of the light bulb above my head is actively rewriting my metabolism. But let's move to the third pillar. Because even if we fix the stress, and even if we somehow fix the light, we're still just sitting there.
The act of sedentary work, the forager in a chair.
Right. And for this, I want to talk about David. He's a software developer. I saw a post he wrote where he talked about the 2.0 p.m. wall.
The dreaded afternoon slump. We all know it.
Right. He sits in this ergonomic, expensive chair for 8 hours a day. He's just staring at code. And he says that every day, like clockwork, around 2.0 p.m., his brain turns into static on an old television.
A very common description. I've heard that exact phrase before.
He feels like a failure. Yeah. He looks around, sees other people typing away, and thinks, why can't I focus? I'm just sitting here. I'm not digging ditches. I'm not carrying rocks. Why am I so exhausted?
And to understand why he's exhausted, we need to apply optimal foraging theory to the modern office. This comes from the work of Mark van Vugt on evolutionary, industrial, and organizational psychology.
Optimal foraging theory. That sounds like something about squirrels gathering nuts for the winter.
It applies to all animals, including us. The basic rule of nature is this: energy is finite. Calories are hard to get. Therefore, an organism should never, ever waste energy. We evolved to be energy savers.
So laziness is natural. Is that what you're saying?
Laziness is a judgment. Efficiency is the biological term. Humans are designed for burst activity. You track an animal, which is a high cognitive load. You sprint or hunt, which is a high physical load. You get the food, you eat, and then you rest.
You do nothing.
You do nothing. You conserve calories for the next burst. It's a cycle.
Sprint and rest. Sprint and rest.
Exactly. Now look at David's job. What is his job asking him to do?
It's asking for a steady, flat line of focus. 8 hours of continuous abstract problem solving with no breaks.
Which is incredibly metabolically expensive. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes 20% of your daily energy. And sustained executive function planning, inhibiting distractions, writing code is a massive energy drain.
And it's something we never had to do before.
It is evolutionarily novel. No hunter-gatherer ever spent 8 continuous hours solving a single abstract logic puzzle without moving. It would have been a suicidal waste of energy.
So when David hits that wall at 2:00 p.m., it's not that he's weak, it's a safety mechanism kicking in.
It's a governor. It's an energy-saving protocol. His brain is detecting a rapid depletion of glucose without a tangible, immediate reward like, a dead gazelle. In the wild, if you spent 8 hours staring at a rock trying to figure out how to move it with your mind, you'd starve.
So the brain induces fatigue.
It releases a chemical called adenosine. It basically says, stop this. This is a waste of energy. Go lie down under a tree.
But David can't rest. He has a deadline. So he chugs an energy drink and pushes through it.
He fights his own biology. And then there is the purely physical aspect of just sitting. This brings us to the exercise paradox, which was famously studied by an anthropologist named Hermann Ponzer.
Okay.
He also studied the Hadza and measured how many calories they burn in a typical day of hunting and gathering.
I'm going to assume they burn way more than David, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're running around the savannah all day.
You'd think so. That's what everyone thought. But Ponzer found that the total daily energy expenditure of a hunter-gatherer is surprisingly similar to that of a moderately active Western office worker.
Wait, that makes no sense at all. How can sitting in a chair burn as many calories as hunting a gazelle?
Because the body is a budgeter. It's a master of resource allocation. If you are highly physically active, your body downregulates other systems. It spends less energy on inflammation, less on stress reactivity, less on reproduction to keep the total energy burn stable.
It's a zero-sum game.
To a large extent, yes. But here is the catch. It's not about the total calories burned. It's about how they are used.
So David might be burning a similar number of calories, but he's burning them on stress and inflammation from his inbox.
Exactly. And he is missing what's called idling movement. This is the concept of the chair as a predator. When you sit completely still for an extended period, your large postural muscles, the quads, the glutes, the big muscles in your back, go silent. They completely stop contracting.
And why does that matter? They're not doing any work anyway.
Oh, but they are. Those tiny, low-level contractions act like a sponge for blood sugar and lipids. They produce enzymes like lipoprotein lipase that literally vacuum up excess fat from the bloodstream to use as fuel. When David sits for 4 hours straight, that vacuum turns off.
So his blood is just turning into a sludge of sugar and fat.
Basically, the metabolic machinery shuts down. Even if he goes to the gym for an hour after work, it might not be enough to counteract the metabolic damage of 8 hours of total stillness. We aren't built to sit. We are built to squat, to stand, to walk, to climb, to rest on the ground. The chair is a full-body cast that we voluntarily wear every single day.
Wow. So let's try to pull this all together. We have Marcus, whose smoke detector is stuck in the on-end position because his inbox is an abstract lion that never sleeps.
Right.
We have Elena, whose internal clock is broken because she's living in a perpetual blue light noon, completely decoupled from the sun.
Her whole metabolism is confused.
And we have David, who's trying to force a sprinter's brain to run a marathon while his body metabolically rots in a chair.
It creates a synthesis that researchers call the human zoo.
The human zoo. That's clique.
It is, but it's accurate. Think about it. When we take wild animals and put them in captivity, what happens? Even if we give them plenty of food and keep them safe from predators, they get sick.
Right. They develop strange behaviors. They pace back and forth.
They pull out their own fur. They get obese. They get chronic diseases they'd never get in the wild.
That sounds uncomfortably like us.
It is us. We have built a world that satisfies our base needs, safety, calories, temperature control, but starves our deeper evolutionary needs for variation, for solar rhythm, for movement, for acute stress resolution.
So the pathologies we are seeing, the anxiety, the burnout, the metabolic syndrome, these aren't individual failures. They are the stereotypies, the pacing in the cage behaviors of the human animal in captivity.
Exactly. It completely reframes the problem.
That really reframes the guilt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think so many of us feel guilty for being tired or for being anxious. We think, I should be able to handle this. I have a good job. I'm safe.
You can't mindset your way out of a biological mismatch. You can't meditate your cortisol away if your environment is constantly, fundamentally triggering the alarm. These symptoms are health alarms. They are the dashboard lights flashing, telling us that the car is being driven in a way it was never designed for.
It seems like the 9 to 5 isn't just a schedule. It's a structural maladaptation. It's a tax we are all paying.
It is a tax levied by our ancestral past on our industrial present, and the interest rate on that tax is compounding every single year.
That is a heavy realization, but I think a necessary one to even begin making changes. We spend our lives trying to upgrade our discipline, our productivity hacks, and our caffeine intake to meet the demands of the machine.
We try to fix the person to fit the system.
But perhaps the glitch isn't in us. We are running widely outdated software on hardware that was never designed for this specific operating system. The question isn't how to force the Stone Age brain to process emails faster.
It's how long we can ignore the fact that for the biological machine, the office chair is a trap and the inbox is a lion that never sleeps.